if you look at the big picture, Pakistan is willing to bat with anybody as long as the other person or as long as it hurts India. Pakistan essentially it'll side with Turkey, it'll side with Saudi Arabia, it'll side with China, it'll side with US, it'll side with anybody as long as the target is India. Field Marshal Asim Munir said that he was willing to be a go-between the US and China. America says that it wants the airbase against China. China's closest ally is Pakistan. How can Pakistan help US get that airbase from Taliban, which is now opposed to Pakistan? Nothing happens in the world on the terror front that does not have any linkage with Pakistan. China has been using Pakistan to cut down India to size. US is now doing the same.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Hindustan Times and my name is Aisha Varma. On this segment of Point Blank, diplomatic shifts are unfolding across South Asia and beyond with the latest high-stakes White House meeting between Pakistan's Army Chief, Field Marshal Asim Munir, and President Donald Trump making global headlines. Scathing words at the United Nations. There's a tussle between the Taliban and Trump as well, and Ladakh protests turned deadly for 4 people. We have the executive editor of Hindustan Times, Mr. Shishir Gupta, joining us for more on the latest developments. Sir, namaskar. Sir, first things first. There have been 2 meetings between the Pakistan Army Chief, Field Marshal Asim Munir, and the US President Donald Trump. What is the feedback on this latest meeting?
Aisha, the latest meeting that took place lasted about 90 minutes, in which Pakistan's de facto dictator, that is Field Marshal Asim Munir, was there, and Pakistan's nominal leader, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, was also there. I am told that a couple of things that happened over there. One was that most of the talking was done by Field Marshal Asim Munir.
Okay.
Second thing is that Gaza, Iran, and Syria were discussed by the 2 leaders, and in which what was decided was that Pakistan would contribute to the stabilization force in case the Hamas accepts the 20-point proposal that President Donald Trump and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have forwarded yesterday.
Okay.
Now, so if you look at that, that fits into a piece of the military alliance with Saudi Arabia, because ultimately it's all about troops in the Middle East which would be required in case the Gaza proposals work out. But those are not so simple things, normally, because there is no involvement of Iran. We do not know what Hamas has said, so we are not very clear as to whether it will work or not. So that was one thing. Second thing was that I am told that Field Marshal Asim Munir said that he was willing to be a go-between the US and China. And he would try and sort of, patch up or convey messages to each other. Now, it's another matter that President Donald Trump wants him to convey messages where he can do it directly.
Okay.
So Field Marshal Asim Munir wanted to take the Henry Kissinger role, as that happened way back in the 1970s. Then basically these were 2 important points that came out in that meeting. And of course, you saw what has played out, the Gaza proposals and what has happened in the past. Now, when he had gone in June, that meeting remains classified in the sense that hardly anything came out of that lunch meeting with President Donald Trump. Now, what you see over here is is a classical Pakistan strategy of running with the hare and hunting with the hounds. So Pakistan, if you look at the big picture, Pakistan is willing to bat with anybody as long as the other person, or as long as it hurts India. So Pakistan will do anything at the bidding of US. Now, when it was in June, they came out with a statement recommending him for the Nobel Prize. Today, they were first off the foot when they started basically congratulated President Donald Trump for the Gaza proposals. Of course, India has also done it because we need the war to stop in Gaza. And we were always for a two-state solution, right? So Prime Minister Modi has commended President Donald Trump for that. But if you look, going back to Pakistan, now Pakistan essentially is, it'll side with Turkey, it'll side with Saudi Arabia, it'll side with China, it'll side with US, it'll side with anybody as long as the target is India. So it's a very defined role. So if you look at Field Marshal Asim Munir's statement, the one he made before Pahalgam and the one he made when he went to attend the farewell of CENTCOM commander Michael Kurilla, and when he made a statement in Florida, basically identifying India as the prime enemy of Pakistan. So here what is happening, this is what has been defined and which is coming out from Pakistan, and this is the strategy that India needs to counter. Now the downside in all this is that while Pakistan is, because it is a de facto military dictatorship, it can take a decision much more faster. And America is very happy dealing with dictators, kings and rulers as in the past. So for India, it will be very difficult to take any step that fast. Like Pakistan has offered a mineral pact with US. Pakistan will be willing to help them in Afghanistan. Pakistan is willing to bat for them with China. So you are entering into a space where India will not be able to take decisions that faster because it being a democratic state. So that is where the problem lies and that is where the concern is. But Pakistan, it is very clear, will do anything, will side with anybody as long as the target is India.
So what also seems to be interesting when it comes to Trump's relationships, right, is there seems to be a tussle between Donald Trump and the Taliban over the Bagram air base. Can you explain what's so significant about this base? Why does everybody want it?
See, what is interesting is that when President Donald Trump went to UK, which is the residual power or in the Indian subcontinent, right? He made the statement that he wanted the Bagram air base. Now, the Taliban has objected to this statement that US wants to acquire the Bagram base. First, we really do not know what is the inside track on what US is telling Taliban.
Okay.
Because Taliban also does things in its own interest, and you can see in the past 3 decades what has happened, right? They were close to Pakistan, they went out of Pakistan. They were at one point of time, they were totally against US, then they actually had a dialogue with them. US at first was pushed out Russia, came inside, 9/11, Operation Afghanistan, then was there in the occupying power for 20 years, then pushed out, again wants to come back. So it's a bit of a confusion over there. But Bagram, the way it is located, Bagram is an air base which has 2 huge runways. It was developed first by the Russians or the Soviet Union, and then subsequently by the Americans. Now, the way the air base is positioned, it is looking towards the Wakhan corridor and it is looking towards China. So if you are in control of this air base, which is an all-weather air base, you can have good reaction to anything happening in Central Asia, anything happening in China, and anything even happening in India. So, US now suddenly wants the Bagram Air Base for this very reason, because if it has to take any action, or if it has to sort of counter any contingency developing either in China or in Central Asia or in Middle East or in Iran, this airbase suits the purpose. But to again reoccupy this airbase, it will need the support of Pakistan, because ultimately all the men and material will come through Karachi.
Okay.
So here again you are into a conundrum where America says that it wants the airbase against China. China's closest ally is Pakistan. How can Pakistan help US get that airbase from Taliban, which is now opposed to Pakistan? You're dealing with a whole lot of variables over here, and the equation is far more complex than it seems. So let's see how it plays out. But Bagram remains central to holding dominance, holding the US dominance in the Indian subcontinent.
All right.
And that is why it is also a matter of concern for us. But one must remember that it was not so long ago that the Taliban threw out the Americans from the same place.
Absolutely. Coming to the United Nations now, India has given a sharp rebuttal to Pakistan PM Shehbaz Sharif's speech, calling what he said absurd theatrics. India's own External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Shankar, I want to quote what he said here. He essentially also leveled a scathing attack at the UNGA. He noted that many major international terror attacks have been traced back to one neighbor. What do you make of these statements at the United Nations?
See, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif made the statement against Hindutva. He sort of launched an attack against India. It again went back to Operation Sindoor, talking about how India apparently lost 7 aircraft. I do not know where he gets the numbers from. Okay, so this was a typical play, typical Pakistani ploy that happens over the years annually at the UNGA, which is the biggest talk shop available to everybody in the world, to launch against India to boost up his domestic political rankings. That's about all. There's nothing more to this. See, they use this to sort of shore up their own standing within Pakistan. Asim Munir made those statements. The whole idea was again towards the domestic audience. Basically shoring up, listen, here it is the Pakistan army, which is the fortress of Pakistan. It is the power that Pakistan is all about. Here, Shehbaz Sharif did his bit on that. Now, obviously, we cannot let go of these statements uncontested. And they were very sharply rebutted to. First, by a young lady officer of the Indian Foreign Service, and then subsequently by Foreign Minister S. Shankar. But what S. Shankar said is the truth about terrorism, because nothing happens in the world in the terror front, nothing happens in the world on the terror front that does not have any linkage with Pakistan.
So then politically speaking, where exactly does India go from here?
This is $1 million question, because see, India needs a long-term solution for Pakistan.
Okay.
A long-term strategic plan for Pakistan to counter what Pakistan is doing to India, using all powers that it can summon. It's not about, winning a cricket match with Pakistan. It's not about shaking hands or not shaking hands. It is not about lifting trophies or not lifting trophies. It is not about trolling Pakistan and countering trolls. It is not about Aman ki Asha. It is not about, this whole business that I hate Pakistan. it is about thinking clearly as to what do you want to neutralize the threat that is coming from Pakistan. It's a huge challenge, considering that Pakistan has now gone close to US. So India has to develop the tools and the instruments and the plan to actually take on Pakistan or to counter Pakistan. And that is one reason why Operation Sindoor continues. So the point here is that, we tend to react to everything that is happening in Pakistan. Shehbaz Sharif spoke, we countered it. So they started, we react. But this reaction, counter-reaction is not the solution.
Okay.
The solution is having a long-term plan for Pakistan, long-term plan to tackle Pakistan, to challenge Pakistan, because China has been using Pakistan to cut down India to size. US is now doing the same. So the great game is basically India, right? And Pakistan is just a dirty tool for that. You have to have a plan in this. And for that, you need multiple instruments. The biggest instruments being, you need to have independent intelligence as to what is happening in Pakistan, what is the Pakistan-US equation, what is the Pakistan-China equation, what is happening in Middle East. We cannot rely or trust on people or the so-called associates to give us intelligence. We need to develop capabilities. We need to have that capacities and the capability to do that.
Okay.
With the intelligence thing, we need to develop the military capability also to tackle any contingency that comes up. And for that, Atmanirbhar Bharat is the only way forward, because nobody is going to give you technology for free. Okay? Nobody is going to give you technology to get hits themselves. So this is the second part of it. And so there has to be a plan in all this. And the latest being what has happened in Ladakh. Ladakh, partly there was something that was building up. But what I know of Ladakh is that Ladakh was a situation that has roots beyond Ladakh. Okay. It has roots towards the west. And I'm saying this with very strong understanding of the situation over there. Now, if you look at that, and if you look at whose footprints you find in Ladakh, there was a problem. There was a law and order issue over there that could have been tackled better. But there is a larger game in play in that. Because Ladakh, the way it is situated, it is basically a wedge between Pakistan and China. And if anything happens in Ladakh, the Indian hold on Siachen Glacier, on Karakoram Pass, becomes that much costly. So basically, by having this agitation, you've increased the cost in Ladakh. And who's behind it? Clearly, the powers, they're not within, because Ladakhis are nationalists. The powers are outside the country and they point towards the west. So India, in a very rapid changing environment, it's changing by the day. India needs to be nimble-footed. It needs to have faster decision making. It needs to understand as to what we are dealing with. Because we are definitely going towards a very, very turbulent and a very, very unstable world.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for joining us and providing us with all of that crucial insight. We'll continue to track the developments on Hindustan Times. Do stay tuned.